Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Boat Dealer Profits Podcast, where we're committed to helping you sell more boats, make more money, and have more fun. I could not be more excited about our guest today. He happens to be my personal business coach, and I'll read his bio, and we'll tell a little bit about his story, and you'll see why I'm so excited to have him on. But Jim Palmer is a marketing expert and in-demand small business coach. He's the founder of the Dream Business Academy and Dream Business Mastermind and Coaching Program. Jim's the host of the Dream Business Coach TV, Dream Business Radio podcast. He's a serial entrepreneur and creator of No Hassle newsletters, No Hassle social media, concierge print and mail on demand, Success Advantage Publishing, custom article generator, just to name a few. The list keeps going on and on. And Jim's also, he's an acclaimed author of several books. Just Say Yes, Create Your Dream Business and Live Your Dream Lifestyle. Decide, one of my favorites, The Ultimate Success Trigger. Stop Waiting for It to Get Easier. The Fastest Way to Higher Profits. Stick Like Glue. It's Okay to Be Scared, but Never Give Up. And The Magic of Newsletter Marketing. And all of those are on my bookshelf right now. Jim, I really appreciate you joining us. I'm excited about where the conversation is going to go.
Hey, Matt, it's good to be with you, and I just want to apologize in advance for my voice. I've got a nasty head cold, and I'll probably sound like a 15-year-old at least one time during the call.
But don't let it stop you. That's the good thing.
Okay.
So tell everybody where you're having this conversation from.
From my boat, oddly enough. It's a good fit for your audience, yes. My wife, Stephanie, and our rescue dog, Blue. Well, Blue didn't own the house, but Stephanie and I sold our house a year ago, and we moved on to a 50-foot boat, and I say we go anywhere, but anywhere there's 4 feet of water. So we've traveled up and down the East Coast. I run my businesses from my boat, and I'm trying to help other people live their dream lifestyle as well.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm excited about talking to you today is you're a marketing expert. I mean, I've been studying for years, been personally working with you as my coach for quite a while now, and I want to get your perspective on kind of your experience going through the boat buying process. You've been a boater for years now, on multiple boats. Kind of explain it from the consumer's mindset and what you experienced going through the process of buying your previous boats.
So it was interesting, Matt, because I started my career in retail, and I've been in, and throughout I was director of franchise for a national franchise. I've always been involved in sales in one capacity or another. I've been obviously a consumer my whole life, and I really didn't know what to think when we started getting into the boat world. I kind of thought it's probably a big professional, thing. And what surprised me a little bit was how many kind of mom and pop type operations there were. And I know there's a lot of consolidation going on these days, but
Yep.
And when we started looking at boats, I remember there's one day we must have drove about 9 hours to see 2 or 3 boats, and we got there, and one of them was, the pictures that they showed on the different websites must have been the pictures when it rolled off the assembly line, because it was not representative of how the boat looked. And, there's just a lot of things. And I think that, when somebody's investing in something, it's definitely a luxury item. It's not food. It's not your shelter. It's definitely something that's going to come out of your discretionary budget. I think people, especially first-time buyers, really want to have a professional experience. I mean, if we were to get right down to it, business, selling boats or selling anything is really educating the consumer, giving them a certain comfort level about what they're buying. Because if somebody's going to part with their money, whether it's 10 grand on a used boat or, $100,000 or $500,000 on a boat, you've got to establish trust and value. And, I was really surprised with a couple of the places we went, how they seemed a little old school, Matt. And I sure hope I'm not offending anybody by saying that, but it was just like, it just felt kind of old and stale. And I think business today, we tried to look online, and I think the websites were nothing but, kind of glorified business cards that were probably created 10 years ago. And people do so much of their buying and shopping online. They try and educate themselves before they go in. So I could probably talk for an hour about it, but I think there's a real opportunity in the marine industry for people to really step up and learn what it means to market correctly and learn what it means to build trust and value even before they have their first conversation with a potential customer. And as I said, I'll go for an hour, but let me pause here, take a breath, see what you think of that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly I like it that you're a consumer. You're a consumer that also understands sales and marketing. So you can kind of pinpoint some of these areas where because people in the industry have been doing it for so long, and their dad or their grandfather started the business, and sometimes we get stuck in the rut of this is the way we've always done it, and getting an outsider's perspective of you are very, very potentially likely missing opportunities because of that, because you're not stepping up with the times and changing with the ways consumers buy. But you mentioned, Jim, going online. What were some of the issues that you discovered as you were online? Besides, like you said, there was one boat that the pictures did not match up at all with what you were seeing when you stepped on the dock.
Yeah, there was one boat that actually had a lot of mold issues, and I thought, I drove 3 hours. You'd think that would have been disclosed or something, but that happens. I realize there's some bad eggs in every industry. But as I said,
sure.
if the folks that you're working with, boat dealers, and I think they should, I think more of them hearing this should work with you because you get this. I mean, not only have you and I been working together, but I mean, I've had you on my boat and we've shared a lot of conversations. And I think if you understand the buying process of today's consumer, and you said something a minute ago, Matt, old tried and true, or whatever the expression was, that's true. I've actually been in marinas where I had a little bit of an issue with service, and basically the response was, this is the way we've done it, this is the way we've always done it, something like that. And I think, most people hopefully listening to this would say, wow, I would never say that. But, people that have been in business a long time and have the same staff for a long time, that could be a plus and a benefit, but it could also be a detriment where you need to always be focusing on training. I mean, the fact that somebody's been with your company, whether in service or sales or whatever, for 20 years or 10 years, I mean, that can be a good thing, but it could also be a situation where if you're not getting trained on how people are shopping today, it could actually be a detriment, And so how do people shop? I'll just talk about myself. You obviously go online, you do a lot of research. I kind of zeroed in, at least when we were buying this boat, I zeroed in on, we like this certain Carver model. And then I went to, quite a few boat shows, and we really put a lot into it. And, when we went to these different places, it just seemed, there was one place we went to, nobody even greeted us for a while, which to me, that's just, man, I don't, I used to be in the
1, 2, and 3 all in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, I used to be in the bike business, and I used to say, I don't care if somebody's coming in to buy an inner tube or a $500 bike, you get up and go greet them like within the first 30 seconds, right? And but what happens with a lot of people that have been in sales a long time, they rely on the features and the benefits, right? So, well, this boat has Cummins engines, and this boat has this, and it's got this fiberglass hull. And most people, from a consumer standpoint, some may understand that. Some have heard of Cummins, obviously, they've heard fiber, but they don't necessarily understand when somebody who's been in boating their whole life is spewing these different terms. And what I know to be true, because I used to sell, some fairly expensive items, it's like a franchise, it was multiple six-figure deal. And what people as a consumer don't want to do is they don't want to be put in the position of being the layman or not understanding. So if somebody said, oh, hey, Jim, this has Cummins, this, that, and the other diesels, and they've got the rail system, and I'm, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say, I don't understand what that is. Can you explain it to me? No consumer is going to say that, right?
Right. You just nod your head and think to yourself, what is he talking about?
Yeah, and I'll go look it up later. But, the conversations that you have with your consumers from the minute they visit your website, from the minute they call, if your marketing is done correctly and your phone rings, whoever answers the phone, I mean, everything has to be precise these days so that someone's first going to say, wow, I really felt good about that. Let's go talk to them. And they go and they just educate you and they walk you through the process. Hashtag build trust. And so it almost comes down to where a customer would say to you, this is the people that you work with, Matt, I think this is their ultimate goal. For a customer to say, I don't know what boat I'm going to buy, but I want to buy it from you, right? That's the whole, that's what marketing and building trust is all about. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. But part of it, and probably the biggest part of before someone like you who can even do that with your clients, is you have to understand the mindset. You have to actually change the mindset of some of the tried and true or people who've been in business a very long time. Mindset has really shifted in how people make decisions in business.
Well, yeah, and you do quite a bit of, you have a concept called the millionaire mindset. And I've seen some of your trainings. It's in several of your books. I mean, it's kind of a overflowing theme through all 6, 7, 8, 9 books, whatever you're up to now. Talk about that as it relates to the industry from your perspective.
So I did a training about a week ago, how to improve your millionaire mindset. And, I'm going to give you the nub of it because I taught for an hour, but there's
Right.
no shortage, Matt, of desire. There's no shortage of finding business owners who desire more success, who desire to sell more boats, make more profit, and have more fun, I think is your tagline, which is pretty cool. There's no desire of that, but there's a big difference between desire and action. I'll tell you what I mean. I did a little experiment before my training. A week before my training, I sent out an email to a small portion of my email list, and I promoted on Facebook, and I said, who's a speaker and who wants to learn how to sell from the stage? Like, so if you're a speaker and you can sell your books or your training programs, and or if you're doing webinars, I said, who would like to learn how to do that? We got approximately, I didn't mail my whole list, but we got approximately 50 people, Matt, who raised their hand, replied and said, yes, me. And on Facebook, it lit up. Yes, I want to learn. And then 2 days later, I told them about I have a home study course, as you know, called How to Sell from the Stage. And I actually videotaped one of my presentations. I routinely close 30 to 40% of the room. I've closed as much as 70% of the room. So I'm really good at it. I'm just telling you that for background, right? And over this 2-day experiment, nobody bought the course, which was $197. So when 5 days later, when I was here and I did my training on Facebook Live, I told him that example, and I said the difference between 6-figure or 7-figure business owners is not lack of desire, it's lack of implementation or taking action. I said everybody wanted to learn how to sell from the stage, but nobody ponied up $197 to learn from somebody who's really good at it. And I said that's the difference. So as it relates to the boat industry, Matt, and millionaire mindset, which is what you asked me, I would say, I know you were recently at a big trade show in Orlando. It's when I had you on my boat and we talked a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no lack of desire amongst the people at that show. I mean, if you let's just say there was 1,000 dealers there. I don't know how many there were, but if there were 1,000 dealers and somebody did a quick survey and said, how many people here would like to sell more boats, make more money, and have more fun? 1,000 hands would go up, right? And if the next thing is, well, I've got a way to do that, and here's what's involved. And let's just say you were on the stage. Kind of put you in the spotlight. It's your show, so I'll give you the spotlight. Let's say you were on the stage, Matt, and you said, I've got this program. I teach people how to do this. It's a really interesting course. I've done it for many people, and I'm going to give you a money-back guarantee. And I would bet you, and I know this wasn't the case, I'm not telling stories, but because you weren't on the stage, right? But if you were on the stage, you might have sold a few, but of 1,000 hands that went up and said, yeah, I want to sell more boats, make more money, have more fun. I don't know what percentage would have gone up there, but it would have been a very small percentage. And that's not speaking of your skills. It's speaking of the mindset where people, I just want to read a book, or I just want to do this, or I'm going to try this, and let's just throw a little money at Facebook ads, and maybe our Yellow Page ad stakes. I don't even know if Yellow Page is still around. Let's just hold in, but maybe this, maybe that, and they're just going to try this. Maybe they're going to send one person to this, free training at the Chamber of Commerce. But the difference between the people who are moving their businesses forward at a more rapid rate are the people who actually are taking action and in most cases investing to learn some new skills.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the skills are changing. They're changing more rapidly now, especially with the marketing side of things, with Facebook and social media, and just the change that can happen on an announcement from like Facebook did not too long ago. Those changes you have to keep up with, and it's tough to do that when you're in your dealership doing the other 27 things that you need to do to keep your store running profitably.
Absolutely. Everything's changing, and it's changing rapidly. Now, I do believe at the core of every business, whether it's product or service related, at the very core of every business is the relationship that business has with its customers. So there's, in any business, you have two things. You have customer acquisition, but you also have customer retention. The other problem that I see with a lot of small businesses, and perhaps some of the larger businesses that you deal with, Matt, is when they make a sale, it's almost like the old movie. I don't know if you remember the movie The Tin Men, where they sold aluminum siding. You make a sale and you go and you ring a bell in the center of this room with all the people on phones, and you celebrate that sale. And the very next thing you do is you start trolling for another sale. What I say is you want to maximize the profitability of each and every customer relationship that you have. So whether you're selling a boat or a dinghy or an outboard or whatever it is, that's the beginning. That's a transaction. It's a single transaction. And to me, it's like a newborn baby in the life of a relationship. You want to take that relationship, and I mean, for goodness sakes, the cost of customer acquisition is so large. Why would you not actively have a proactive campaign of retention, which might mean a monthly newsletter, it might mean focus groups, follow-up, postcards. I mean, in any way, shape, or form, continually following up. And I don't just mean an occasional email and say, hey, we're having a party, at Dock C. It's a proactive campaign to remind people that you're appreciative of their business, but also having them keep you top of mind, right? So there's a lot to be said on that side of the coin as well.
Yeah, for referrals and everything. I mean, you know how tight-knit the boating community is. I mean, you've been going down the Intercoastal Waterway, and we talked about how you run into some of the people that you met up in the Northeast before you headed down to, where are you at now? You're in Florida somewhere?
We're in Jacksonville. Yeah, we met somebody in New England. They were our dock neighbor for only about 2 or 3 weeks, and then, we followed them a little bit. Next thing you know, they were going through Maryland when we were at our home port, and we had them over for dinner, and we stopped and met up with them twice, I think 2 or 3 times on the way down here. So it is a very small, close-knit community. And I think the other thing that boat dealers have, because I'm assuming most of your boat dealers don't just sell boats. They probably have service, sale, the aftermarket accessories.
Yeah, pro shops, parts, accessories, all that. You got it.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing that I've learned about the marine industry over the time that we've been doing this, especially as full-time cruisers, is that it is so small and close-knit. And so if for example, right now I've got a problem with my Intellian satellite TV. So I'm Googling, Intellian satellite service in Jacksonville, Florida, but I'm also asking other boaters on our dock, because I see that they have satellite TV. Oh, you want to go here? You want to go there? Word of mouth is becoming, it's always been important, right? Since dawn of business, but it's way more important, I think, in an industry that's kind of close-knit like the marine industry. And so when somebody has a bad experience with a boat dealer or something, even if it was a bad day, somebody said a cross word, maybe it was really bad, and somebody was out sick. There could have been something horrible at the dealer, but for some reason it affected 6, 8, 10 customers that day. That stuff starts spreading. And the dangerous part about business today as it relates to marketing is with the internet. If you have a bad experience, for some reason people feel compelled to jump on the internet, and whether it's Google or whether it's some of these other places where you can share, where people share they rate their companies, like Yelp and things like that, and all of a sudden that stuff is out there for people to see. So if I was to Google, like ABC, satellite TV repair, and attached to the Google searches, they got like a dozen 1-star reviews. The chance of me calling them, whether that's fair and reasonable or not, is diminished, right? So anyway, we can talk about so many of these topics.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your experience. You mentioned that you went to several boat shows and you researched online a lot. What happened in your experience from the time that you interacted with the salesperson or you met them for the first time to the time you bought the boat? What type of follow-up? Because I know in one of your books, I want to say it's the pansy, what's that, that concept, the don't market like a pansy or something like that.
Well, in my first business, I called it Matt, you're referring to newsletter pansy. In my first business.
There you go.
Yeah, so I was teaching small business owners how to market and grow their business, mostly retention, using a newsletter. And so real quick, funny story. So I got invited to submit I don't know, it was an article or something for this big marketing conference. And I said, I don't want to submit the same, hey, here's 5 things you can do to make your newsletter better. So what I did is I came up with a list of the reasons that people who make a decision to have a company newsletter and then they stop, right? So I'm listing, because it doesn't bring fast results. It's a relationship building tool. I listed like 3 or 4 things of why people start a newsletter and then don't keep up with it. And when I was doing that, my buddy came over, we went out to lunch, and he goes, what are you doing? I told him, he goes, well, why would they do that? And I said, I don't know. I think because they're a newsletter pansy. And man, literally for like 5 years, that went around this little industry that I was part of. Newsletter Pansy. I wrote a Newsletter Pansy report, and it was just. And when somebody became a client, I gave them a Newsletter Pansy award, and I said, after you mail 12 issues, I will send you this award, and I'll give you a free month of printing. Or so I did some really crazy things, but really what I was doing, I was incentivizing them to do the right thing for their business. You want to mail at least 12 issues, and then if it's not working, but I knew it would work. There's not a business on the planet that a newsletter won't help. But you can't just mail one and go, well, shoot, we didn't sell any boats. Don't do the newsletter anymore. So anyway, right. I forgot where your question was going with that. That's the backstory of that.
The follow-up from the interest on a boat to you buying a boat, because that lifestyle, it's not a pack of gum where you, hey, this is the gum I want, and you go to the register and buy it. It takes a little time for everything to fall into place and to make that decision.
I was incredibly shocked and saddened by the lack of follow-up from every single person we encountered in the industry. And it was just, I mean, but I think that's not specific to boating. I think that's just business in general. I mean, Stephanie and I, when we're 5 years ago or whatever, 6 years ago, we were going to put an addition on our home at the time, and we had like 5 contractors come out. Most of them were recommended to us by friends and neighbors, and all 5 of them, not one of them followed up with us. We had to like, hey, where's the quote? How long is it going to take to get? It's like nobody was going after the business, right? And so the feeling you get, first of all, is one of neglect. And the second thought is, well, I guess they got enough business, so how hard are they going to work for us? So we really had to take the bull by the horns. And in some respects, you can go, well, it's your boat, blah, blah, blah. You know, you got to take ownership of the experience. And I get that. But I think the lesson for the people that are hearing this and your clients, Matt, is you don't have to do terribly too much to stand out from the crowd. You know, an interesting concept if you're in sales, and again, whether you're selling dinghies or, $1 million boats, if you follow up with the people, and like if somebody comes and looks at your boat, most people aren't going to buy a $200,000 boat on the first visit. But you follow up with them. Well, what would be a good time? Are you morning or evening? I don't want to bother you at work. Well, I'm usually home in the evening. So would it be okay if I call after 7? I don't, you have that conversation. And then if somebody says, yeah, give us a week, somebody may actually go, yeah, give me a couple of weeks to think about it. That's fair enough. But a couple of weeks later, you call them at 7 o'clock or 7:05. Say, I'm just following up. What did you think of the boat? Do you have any questions on it? Would you like to see it again? I mean, show some interest in satisfying the customer would go a long way.
Yeah, and seeing the opportunity from my clients that start using the splash system, which you wrote the forward to my latest book, which I appreciate very much, by the way. But part of that splash system is, hey, there are people that show interest, that go to the boat show, and 2 years later are ready to buy a boat. And you can easily position yourself to be in front of them and be their dealer of choice if you just stay in touch with them, if you just keep that line of communication open and educate them and motivate them to get involved in the boating lifestyle. And I think that fits very well with your thoughts as well.
Yeah, well, that was a point, again, kind of going back to one of my first businesses was the newsletter business, and that was like a big selling point of why you want to do follow up on a regular basis. And my point is, people buy when they're ready to buy. They're not going to buy because you send them one mailing list or one newsletter. They're not going to buy because you send them a postcard or an email. When the situation is right, and you don't know if they got to sell a home or the kids graduate school and move on, whatever the circumstances are that cause somebody to be ready to buy, you always want to be the first one they think of. And that means staying in regular and frequent contact, not only with customers, past customers, but prospects as well. And I could tell you so many stories. I don't want to turn this into a newsletter thing, but one of my toughest, this will illustrate a point if we got a couple minutes. Do I have
is
that okay, Matt? Okay.
Yeah, so that'd be great.
Back in the day, as they say, and I was out speaking a lot on newsletter marketing and customer retention. And I remember I met this gentleman who was a financial planner, which is an industry that is ripe with tons of people and most of them are just going to chamber of commerce meetings, not making a lot of money, just like any business is, a select few who are doing pretty well. And he said, Jim, and my business is not national, obviously, with financial planners. They deal with a local industry. So that's why I want to tell this story, because I think most of your boat dealers deal with people within, who knows, 10, 30, 50 miles of the dealership. I think people are willing to drive a little bit for a big purchase like that. But somebody's not going to drive from Washington, D.C. out to San Diego to buy a boat in Maryland. Do you know what I mean? The chances are you're dealing with a local market. So I said, He goes, will it work for me? And I said, it will work for you, but I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everybody. You got to mail for at least 6 months, right? At least 6 months, and be prepared to make the investment. And I said, the other thing you want to do is you're going to mail to the people who are your current clients, the people who, whose money you're managing, but you also want to mail to prospective clients. So if there are people that you met with or former clients, you mail them as well. That's step 2. Step 3 is you want to get a list of people. And what I would say is, there's plenty of places you can get a mailing list. So for example, if your avatar, which is your perfect target customer, is age 45 to 65, has at least $500,000 in net worth, own their house, 2.3 kids, however you decide who your customer is and whatever zip code they live in, you can do that, and then you start mailing those people. And he says, that seems like a lot of money. I said, if you do it for 6 months, it'll pay off. And he took me up on it. And I would see this guy. He was a local guy, so I would see him at some of the meetings I was going to. And he kept, every month, Matt, he was just busting my, what? I haven't gotten anything from this yet. And I saw him like 7 or 8 months later. He goes, Jim, I gotta tell you something. I mailed my 6th newsletter. So 6 months in, I mailed a newsletter. It was going to somebody on a list. And the lead article that I put on the front page, which is, what I call that's the article about what you do, so to speak. But he goes, my lead article is about what happens when your spouse dies. And he goes, a woman had lost her spouse about a month ago. She gets my newsletter, had been getting it for 6 months. But this article caused her to call my office. She then came in for a consult, and I'm now managing a $5 million portfolio for her. And I said, I don't know what you make, but I'm sure that pays for the last 6 months of newsletters. He goes, oh, and then some.
Yeah, that'll pay for a lot of years and years of newsletters. There's a follow-up, yeah.
Yeah, so Matt, there's a few lessons there. Number one, you got to be consistent and persistent with your marketing. That's one. You have to follow up with customers as well as prospects, right? And the biggest lesson, which kind of started this conversation on now, is customers buy when they're ready to buy. And when they're ready to buy, or when a current customer is ready to refer, you want to be top of mind, and that requires you to be in regular and frequent contact with your folks.
Yeah, the 24/7 selling machine and my relationship selling machine within the Splash system are fit right in line with that, and it's been proven over and over. And I love that different industry examples. It's just just works. It works extremely well. So let's go back to the one of your sayings that I love, and it is I saw it the other day. Gross is for vanity, net is for sanity. As it relates to holding margins, I think that's such a key concept, because in the boating industry, the conversation at the bar at the conference is, how many millions of volume did you do, or how many major units did you sell last year? Talk about that concept a little bit and your thoughts on that. Just such a simple but powerful concept.
Well, it is. When I say gross is for vanity, I knew somebody. I didn't know them personally well, but they were the story traveled in our circles. And this guy was out doing. He did a lot of speaking, and he put on a lot of seminars, multi-day events. And he grew. He had $1 million business. Everybody's like, "Wow, so and so does $1 million out doing these events." He travels from town to town. And what really came out was that, he did $1 million in sales, but I don't know the exact math, but just to make the point, and he had $1,010 in expenses putting on the event. So, and then there's somebody who might do $300,000 in gross sales, but they run a really lean, home office-based business, and maybe their expenses are $80,000 or $100,000, and they're making $200,000. So it might be nice to say you got $1 million or a $5 or a $10 million business, but what are you, the owner, taking home for your efforts? Because I guarantee, if you have a $5 or a $10 million, your risk, the amount that you have out there on the lines of credit, boats sitting on the lots and things like that, you have extensive risk. So that does speak to keeping your margins up, which, by the way, circles right back to customer retention. If somebody buys a boat, you know how many things, yes, you do, how many things people need after they buy the boat. And
yes,
don't tell me about, and for what I spend for plastic parts on this boat, I know the margin is $1 gazillion. But so all you need to do is retain those customers and keep the relationship, keep them coming back, and for the aftermarket stuff, right? So net. So the bottom line is net is for sanity. The net you get out of your business is what you, as the business owner, take home, what you reinvest, what you share, if that's your business, what you share in profits. It's what you can put aside for your own retirement. It's what you use for expansion. So gross dollars might be one thing, but I have another expression: shoestring budget. Man, I'm all for spending the money I need to grow my business, but I'm not going to spend a dollar more than I need to just for the ego. I focus on net much more than I do on gross.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, Jim, I really appreciate, I know we're kind of coming up on a stop here. Any last little bit that, anything I didn't ask you that I should have, or any last comments you have from your experience as a boater, and that you think my listeners would find valuable?
Well, I think, let me give you two things. There's an expression that I say, you will earn significantly more income for who you are than what you do. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, Matt. So in the boating industry, you probably work with some much larger clients and things like that. But the concept is the same. You'll earn more income for who you are than what you do. And the lesson there that I talk about is you want to become almost like a celebrity, or at least a local celebrity. I'm not talking about like Tom Cruise famous, but you want to be a celebrity. And when you see people just promoting their dealership or just promoting the line of boats they sell, people do business with people. So to whatever degree you have somebody in your business, and it may be the owner, it may not be, but you want to have, if it's possible, you want to have somebody, or even have your business be the place, right? Focus more on, man, I'm so happy I bought a boat here. It's not, I'm so happy I bought this boat. It's that you want to do business with, my good friend Bob Berg used to say, given their druthers, people would much rather do business with people they know, like, and trust. And trust is such a big issue, and that's why it's not just, as I said earlier, focusing on features and benefits, but focus on the relationship. And at the core of every relationship is two people. So figure out a way. If your dealers, Matt, look at what you've done. With your book, Boat Dealer Profits, and I know you got your picture on the book, and you're out there, you're speaking and doing different things. It's not the training itself that you're doing. You're wisely making yourself the focal point of that, because there's probably, sorry for saying this, there's probably other people who do similar work to what you do, but it's you.
I do have competition. You're right. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's one or two, but in reality, what's really wise, and one of the reasons you've had so much success, is you have become the focal point of your business, right? So people are going, hey, whatever. So that's one thing. And the other thing I would say is, I'll go back to I think you asked me this as it relates to mindset. I'm sure every boat dealer that's listening to this interview desires an increase, desires to sell more boats, desires to make more profit and have more fun. But who's willing to step up and invest in the training for themselves, for their salespeople, for their front office, for those people? Who's willing to, kind of get out of the old tried and true, perhaps old and worn out, if I'm allowed to say that, ways, and learn some new things to take their business to the next level? I'm sure there's an investment. You don't work for free. I don't work for free. But, working with good people, if that's going to move the needle on your business, then, that's the difference between people who are growing and people who desire growth. It's usually one of taking action and investing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate, Jim. And you have several books. Where can people find out more about you? Your Just Say Yes book. It's got your 50-foot, carver that you've been cruising around the East Coast with. Where can people find more about you?
GetJimPalmer.com is my website, getjimpalmer.com. I have a free Facebook group where I share some training and marketing tips. That is Build Your Dream Business Now. So if you're in Facebook, you can just type in Build Your Dream Business Now. Or actually, I created a URL because that might be hard to remember. Dream Biz Group, dreambizgroup.com, and that will take you there, and we can get connected. And I know you're in that group as well, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate all of your coaching and guidance. And it's just having somebody from outside your day-to-day world, for me, has been an incredible advantage to the growth in my business. Just somebody that kind of pushes you when you need the push and gives you the advice when you need the advice. So I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And that probably should have been my last point you asked me here. We get pushed when you need pushing and grow your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That little kick in the butt sometimes is necessary. I've had clients tell me that before. So, well, hey, Jim, I really appreciate you joining me on the podcast here, sharing your decades of expertise. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Matt. Continued success to you.
Wow, what an incredible episode. I appreciate Jim joining us for this podcast. I mean, going through talking about mindset, it's something that's so critical. And, it's when you look at different marketplaces, you see that there's maybe a dominant player in the marketplace, and then, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are kind of in the middle, and then some of the smaller people, depending on the area. And a lot of times it's just that mindset of, are you willing to step up to take that growth and take some market share away from a competitor, grow the market share, grow the whole pie by taking advantage of those people that just don't get followed up with and never end up buying a new boat, their first boat, their next boat, whatever it is. And, how can you make the pie bigger? And that mindset piece is something that Jim, I think really nailed it. The other areas, just the follow up, they're ready to buy when they're ready to buy. You can do a lot of things to push them down that educational spectrum, but they're only going to buy when they hit that now buyer phase. And there's only so much you can do to push them down. At a certain point, you just need to make sure that you're there in front of them when they are ready. And it could be, weeks, months, years. And I've had clients that have been 5 years in the making that, you stay in front of them with that 24/7 selling machine. You stay in front of them with that relationship selling machine to sell. The net is for, or gross is for vanity, net is for sanity. That concept, that relationship selling machine, make sure that you get all of their boating dollars that has good, strong margins. Make sure you get all of their referrals, and you orchestrate those types of interactions. Just rock solid stuff. So I appreciate Jim. Go check him out at getjimpalmer.com. And if you want to look more into the splash system, if you say, hey, this Boat Dealer Profits, this splash system, it's interesting. I've been following it for a while. You can go to boatdealerprofits.com/success. And you can sign up for a strategy session where we just get on the phone, talk about the opportunities in your dealership, and see if there's a match. We have the Done For You program where we actually take all of this off your hands, and we act as your marketing company. And on top of that, you get sales training. You get other training that just nobody else in the industry is able to do, whether it's Dealer Spike or ARI or Boats Group, whoever it may be. There is an area there that that additional training, sales training, can really transform the way you sell boats in your dealership. Of course, you can go check out boatdealerprofits.com/TV for Boat Dealer Profits TV, all of the past podcasts, my boating industry articles, which are all at boatdealerprofits.com/articles, I think is what that one is. But really, if you want to get on the phone and just have a conversation, boatdealerprofits.com/success is a great place to start. Let's get on the phone, have a conversation, and see how it can be of value to your dealership to really transform your profit. So thank you very much for listening. We will talk to you next time. Take care, everybody.